This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
It's Earth Day today. Yes, and Current Affairs is exploring this year's theme, which is green cities. In keeping with that, we spoke to the Director General of Forestry, as well as the President of Ecoknights, a civil society organization. Now, we first asked Dr. Haji Abdul Rahman, Director General of Forestry, to describe how green Kuala Lumpur is.
Currently, in Kuala Lumpur city area, we have 4 permanent reserve forests. Bukit Nanas, 9.37 hectare. Hutan Simpan Sungai Seputih, we have 14.51 hectare. Hutan Simpan Sungai Besi, we have 42.29 hectare. And number 4, Hutan Simpan Bukit Lagung, we have 2.10 hectare. We have about 68.27 hectare left remnant lowland forest in Kuala Lumpur. So therefore, please, we invite any housing developer, any construction, try to avoid this forest area. Enough is enough, because at the moment, we left about 0.25% green in Kuala Lumpur with just this permanent reserve forest. That's why we invite public out there to get involved, planting more trees.
Well, developers are a powerful stakeholder in reshaping our landscape. The question is there anything for the public to do? Are we powerless in comparison? Abdul Rahman explains.
Now, the developer must get the community involved, get their opinion. Because I think we have exceed to a certain limit that you will destroy a lot of green areas. Okay, so the citizens can come forward to form the association, or like a case in Selangor, they have this public hearing. So wherever there are public hearing for the city council or any plan developer, now the public must come forward, voice their views, especially collectively.
So that was Haji Abdul Rahman, Director General of the Forestry Department, speaking about the need for collective action, for public to get involved in public hearings and such, and, advance their own interest in this game of reshaping the landscape.
Exactly.
Now, the question that needs to be asked is, how much do we regulate our cities, and who do we empower to take charge of our urban environments? BFM spoke to Yasmin Rasyid. She is president of Ecoknights, a civil society organization focused on urban-based environmental initiatives. She spoke about the role of local councils.
The local authority has a big role to play, as local councils or local authorities have a lot of jurisdiction in terms of not just looking at how land is developed properly, but address issues like waste, water, or even things like flood. So one of the key stakeholders would be, how do we wake up the local authorities, and this is applicable to all other cities in this country, to take sustainability of running a city to the next level. First and foremost, I think one of the key things is engaging the public. And if you look at the bigger picture, a city wouldn't be a city without the people in it. And it's the people that, if managed properly, can actually help you run a cleaner and greener city, or can help you ruin the entire city. So public engagement and participation is very, very important. And I can't stress further on this, because it helps local authorities understand the need of the people. Simultaneously, the people also understand the processes that local authorities have to abide to. So it becomes a neutral ground where people and authorities can work together for a common shared goal, which is to develop a livable city, to develop a city that meets all your economic needs, but at the same time provide a good quality of living.
We asked Yasmin, what are the other challenges that are there in order to bring reality closer to the rhetoric on environmental sustainability?
I think one key factor that really needs to be improved a lot is communication and transparency. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are many cases of public taking to the streets or protesting because they were never aware of a development that was happening in their backyard. And the next thing you know, the development has been approved. And subsequently, obviously, it leaves a lot of people semi-unsatisfied to a large level, because half of them have no idea about such plans. And I guess to a large extent, if you look at it from a macro scale, it's about how do you address planning transparently to the public. So when it comes to, say, land use planning or designating certain areas to be used for certain kind of purposes, whether for a highway or to be made into a forest reserve, I think these kind of plans into developing a city is lacking in many local authorities. A lot of the development are still quite ad hoc, and I believe there are quite a bit of development that doesn't even take into account the environmental impacts that they may contribute or the social impacts that they may contribute. So I think globally there's already a lot of guidelines on how you develop green and livable cities. Like, for instance, part of making a city greener is how you manage traffic as well. And traffic falls under the jurisdiction of another agency. And drainage falls under the jurisdiction of another agency. Building construction falls under the jurisdiction of another agency. So what really is critical right now is how do we integrate the roles of all these agencies and come up with a sustainable blueprint plan for any city in the country.
Finally, we asked Yasmin about property developers and should development of green buildings be made mandatory or should it be voluntary?
I think it's very voluntary now. It's very voluntary. All developers are given an option whether they want to develop a green building or not. Obviously, developing a green building is slightly costlier, so many would opt for the former option. But having said that, even if you have a green building, at the end of the day is about looking at the kind of services the building provides to the people that dwell in the building or work in the building. So I think if you really want to transform the landscape in Kuala Lumpur and make it green, it's the local authorities that really need to look at how do you enforce this to every new development in the city where every building has to be green, for instance, or every building must have rainwater harvesting systems, or every building should have LED lighting, for instance, or eco-friendlier lighting systems, and so forth. So currently you have the glamorous GBI as one way, and of course developers use it to that advantage in a marketing kind of way and telling companies that, you got to move in our building because it's greener and so forth. But essentially I think it should be every single building, I'm not talking about new buildings. Even the old buildings that exist in the city can somehow work on getting retrofitted to be a lot greener than they are currently. So again, it all leads to policies at the end of the day, and also enforcement.
That was Yasmin Rasyid, president of Ecoknights, an NGO working on environment issues in the city. The GBI she mentioned there is the Green Building Index.
Yes.
And, David, I don't know about you, but some people believe that property developers control this country. Is that true?
Well, they do build
a lot of things. So the question is, either we have enlightened property developers or we have greater regulation on property developers and enforce the kind of vision that we want.
Exactly.
Right? Well, that's all we have for you today on Earth Day about our cities and whether they can be green. I'm Sharad Kutan, BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.